Hi guys, and welcome to Hillside Talks. I am Maria, and I am so happy that you've decided to join me on my little urban hillside on this beautiful Monday. On this podcast, we talk about everything intentional living, slowing down, how to get the pace of everyday life down to a pace that we can actually thrive in. We also talk a lot about creativity. We talk about our relationship with tech, sustainability, and decluttering. A lot of minimalism stuff going on as well. So if you're into any of that, please consider subscribing, and I'm really happy that you're here today. This is the first episode that I want to do about applying creativity in the way that we use our homes and in the way that we arrange our homes. I studied architecture, and I've always been very fascinated with buildings and houses and tiny houses when they first came out like 15 years ago. A brilliant concept, but not for everyone, because not everyone can live in such a tiny space. Most of us need a little bit more breathing room. When I studied architecture, I remember very specifically that the most fun assignment we were given was one where we had to build a boathouse on a lake, on a river. So people who were canoeing down the river on like a several day trip could store the canoes. They had to sleep 6 people. It had all of these criterias, and it had to be very small at the same time. And it was on a slanted piece of land. I think all of that just really sparked my interest and my fascination with what you can do with rearranging things and optimizing things. And yeah, I've carried that into what I did on Go Downsize, my previous channel, where I talked a lot about optimizing spaces, and I've featured a lot of tiny houses, visited a lot of great spaces. But today I want to talk about my home, and I want to talk about you guys' home. So it's a lot more personal, because even though I think it's fun to space optimize, and I kind of see my home as a little fun jigsaw puzzle where I have to make everything fit. I don't live super tiny, but I also want our spaces to feel like homes. I don't want them to be generic model homes where it's just white walls and you cannot tell who lives there. So we're going to look into how to apply creativity and make our homes personal and stylish without breaking the bank. So buckle up, that's what we're talking about today. When Morten and I bought this space about 3 years ago, we spent the money on the actual space, and we just decided that we would use our creativity and find a way to decorate it and furnish it in a way that would not cost a lot of money. And we care a lot about the environment, taking care of the natural resources that we have available. So there's also building materials for Max when he grows up. And when you search on YouTube or online anywhere, Pinterest, doesn't matter, for a sustainable home, there are so many spaces that pop up. Amazing, amazing spaces. A lot of them have a lot of recycled materials, which is fantastic. Some have beautiful woodwork, and people really put a lot of attention and detail into all of that. And some of them are even underground or inside a greenhouse or on wheels, and I love all of that. But it just isn't really our style. We really prefer clean lines to not get mentally overwhelmed. And I know that we're all different. Some people need to be in an environment with more stuff around and they thrive on that. For us, we just knew that that wouldn't work. And we also just personally have a different style and lifestyle. We're not out in the country, we live an urban life, and we're in an apartment right downtown, and we love that. And I want to share some of the solutions that we came up with over the next few weeks. So I'm going to take it room by room for the different solutions, hoping that some of the things that we came up with will encourage you or inspire you to show you that it is possible to be into decorating and homemaking and creating a personal home with a personal result that fits you and your lifestyle, where you can spend very few of the new resources that the planet has available and without breaking the bank, which is always a bonus. So I want to start out in our dining room because we spend a lot of time in there. I call it a dining room. It's actually more of a craft room for Max and I because we kind of have taken over that space and we can eat in the kitchen. So that room gets a lot of wear and tear, and it is also where we host guests. But we have a continual problem in there because this apartment is on the ground level and the dining room used to be a store. So you could actually access it from the street. And at some point they decided to block it off and then they raised the floors up. So there is about 2 feet of like empty space from where we walk on now, from the wooden floors and then down to the concrete floors. And it is very echoey. And that echoey sound down there just kind of makes the sound in the room bounce around so much. And we can kind of deal with it when it's only the three of us. But when we have guests over, it's really, really frustrating to be in that room, to be honest. And we don't have much space. We have 900 square feet, so around 93 active square meters. And we love it. It's the perfect size. But we need to be able to use every single room that we have available. And in the spring, we had our 19-year anniversary coming up, and we decided that we wanted to invite some friends over to celebrate and just to have a grown-up dinner party where we just hang out and have time to talk without any of the kids. And our dining table seats 12 people. So that was the amount of people that we went for. And the week before that party, we had another family come by for a visit, and we sat in the dining room for hours and talking. And my head hurt so much after that. I told Morten, I was almost crying. I was like, I cannot see how this room can function with 12 people. So me on the verge of a tiny little desperate breakdown, we were like, okay, we need to fix this. So the first thing I did was to look up if we could actually put insulation in under the floor planks, which is totally possible. We could just drill a hole and they come out with a truck and they pump all of this filling in there. And that would be great if we wanted to spend 4,000 Danish kroner, 500 euros or $600. And we were not looking to spend that much. And we also needed the problem fixed pretty fast. So I also looked into doing like Toltec, like these panels for the ceiling. And they're usually put in a lot of new build houses. So they don't exactly go with the style of an older apartment, but they had these kind of funny diamond shaped panels and you could get them in the color that you wanted. So I was like, okay, if we could do that pattern, which kind of mimics an old, like how the ceiling would have looked in an old store, because a lot of times that would be like these square glass panels held together with bronze knobs and stuff. So I was like, okay, we could do kind of like a modern mimic of that, which would have been awesome. I think it would have been a great idea, but the price was kind of the same. And I was like, no way, I'm not spending that much. So we had to get creative. After that, we talked about just getting really chunky, thick curtains to mount on each side of the big window that we have in there. And I looked at the fabric, I looked at the curtains, but it ended up that all of the standard size curtains, they were too short. And if I had to buy the fabric, it would be very expensive still because we have such tall ceilings. So that just was not going to work either. And we were like, okay, we have to do something completely different because we don't want to spend any money and we don't have a lot of time. So I went on Craigslist and I found this box of soundproofing panels, which are great. And just one box with like 10 panels in can be up to like $200, $300. But I found one on there that was like leftover scrap piece from someone's building project. And it was only 100 kroner, which is like 13 euros or $15. And it was in my city. So I just called Morten up. No, I sent him a text. I was like, is it okay if I just drive out and buy this because it's a really good price? He checked up on the price as well. He was like, yes, definitely go and get them. And when I got there, it turned out that I thought it was these like thin panels, but half of them were actually the chunky ones, which are like an inch. And that was even better because that gives more soundproofing. So that was perfect. So I just hauled all of that home. I just very gently nailed them to the wall all the way up, and we put the chunky panels on one side, and we used all of the chunky that we could find. And then we were kind of left with this very ugly yellow edge because Roquefort, which is on the inside, is yellow. It's kind of like melted glass and rock and stuff like that. So it didn't exactly look pretty. And by then, Morten and I were very into the challenge of trying to do this project without spending any more than those $15. And it was actually a lot of fun. Morten remembered, he was like, I think we have a curtain that we used in our old apartment, and I think it's in the basement somewhere. So he went down and looked for it, and yes, he found it. And they were the perfect thickness, and they were kind of sheer a little bit, but not too much, because then you would be able to just see the panels, and still light and airy. So we're like, okay, these might work. And we tested to see the length and the height and everything, because when you want those waves in a curtain, it takes up quite a lot more fabric than if it's just has to cover and be straight. But we tested it, and it looked like it would be perfect. So by then we're like, okay, let's see if we can do this whole project without spending any more money. And I made kind of a list for Morten. We're like, okay, down to 5 days left until the party. And I was like, okay, we need curtain rods. We needed some of those tiny little panels to put on the edge. We needed some paint. We needed brackets to mount the curtain rods. And we needed some rugs for the floors because it's a big surface, and that would just take a lot of the acoustics away. So I told him, if you can find 1 or 2 rugs, we can put it on the floor, and then that will absorb a lot. So combining that with the panels and the curtains, I think that would be good. So he went out, and I think it was actually the same evening he found, no, one night he found one, and then the next evening he found another one. And I had rented a carpet cleaner machine thing because I wanted to clean these couches anyway. So I was able to just quickly clean the carpets, the rugs, and it worked out perfectly. There were a few stains on one of them, and all of that disappeared very easily. And then the next morning I woke up, and there was this big pile, different option for curtain rods and mounting brackets, and he even found those things to cover up the yellow side. And he found some white spray paint, which was really good because the mounting brackets he could find were black. So we painted those, and it was just a really fun project to do together. So we put everything up and finished it that morning, probably before noon. It was fantastic. We had the party, and it was absolutely not an issue with the acoustics. So that whole entire project was just so much fun, and it was practical. It solved the issue. We don't have an acoustic problem in that room anymore. We bought nothing new, which is good for the environment, and it was cheap. We spent 13 euros, $15 on those acoustic panels on DBA, which is Craigslist in Denmark. Yeah, that's it. And it's exactly our style. So it is possible to find fun solutions that also look great. When I was in architecture school and designing that little cabin for the canoes, that was the first time that I really experienced how fun it is with limitations. And I still remember a quote that I learned back when I was studying architecture: limitations sparks creativity. And I find that so true, because limiting our living space just sparks creativity in how you have to accommodate everything. It's fun to try and build multifunctional furniture. It's fun to make those solutions of how you can downsize something so you can actually make it fit. It's fun to try to stick with a budget and then see the debt go down, down, down every month. Sometimes we just have to be a little brave. You guys might not have free furniture or weird things lying around on the streets where you live. that's something we have here. We have that in Denmark, in the bigger cities. And I really love that. But you might have a place where you can go and you can cheaply buy building materials that are reused. I also one time just asked someone, because someone in our building was renovating and the builders were dragging out all of these old floorboards. And I just walked up to them and asked, like, are you throwing these out? And they're, yeah. I was like, do you mind if I take a few of them? And they're like, no, absolutely not, no problem. So they helped me stack some of all those floorboards and I stored them down in the basement. And I have a lot of building material in those boards, and I've built a lot of things with them already, and I'm probably going to use them to fix that sliding door as well. But the most important thing is just that sometimes, yes, we might have to go out of our comfort level a little bit, but then we can get something great. And we have to get over that mental hurdle of being brave enough to ask and not to think that it's a bad thing. Be proud of asking, like, you're throwing these materials out. I think they're a really great resource. Can I take them? Do you mind? And a lot of times people are very accommodating. When we activate our creativity, the world just ends up being a more fun and interesting and inspiring place than when we just consume. And that's really what is at the core of this mini-series, is that I want to encourage you to bring out your creativity. Activate that gift you have and see what happens around you. And I think it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be inspiring, and it's going to bring joy to the people around you for sure, and maybe to yourself as well. That's it for this week's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider sharing in the comments some ideas that you have, some problems or some issues that you need to solve in your home to maybe be brave and step into a creative approach in. This is something I feel very passionate about, and I cannot wait to explore it more over the next few weeks. Well, that's it. See you guys next week. Bye.